In a packed show, the kit man gets some flies on his teeth. We drive a film star. Also, we check out a budget executive cruiser and we investigate the Porsche collection, from the ubiquitous cap to machine-tooled salt and pepper sets. But first, what is the biggest hazard to drivers? Rain? Oil on the road? No, it's beautiful babes with futuristic weaponry, of course. Can the driver's technology beat the babes? Let's see.
A few weeks ago on the show, you may remember, we encountered the Foreman. It's a classic replica, basically kind of recalling the style of the late 60s supercars. If you remember the likes of the Ford GT40 and those beautiful, sexy, swoopy Ferraris. And this car recalls that era very much. And I didn't drive it on the programme then. We thought we'd leave that, tease you a bit, and we're going to drive it today. And that's not something you take lightly. This thing weighs less than 1,000 kilos. It's got 375 brake horsepower from a small block Chevy V8. That's a lot of engine, it's a lot of car. And so starting this thing actually has quite a sense of occasion to it. There's several things to do. Having checked we're in neutral, I don't want to fire myself into the next county. Lift this rocker switch here, flick my ignition to on, put my fuel pump on, and it chocks away. And then we press the best button of all. Listen to this. Even a sound like that, it just... Something that gorgeous cannot possibly be legal. Obviously, it's as direct as you would expect. There's nothing between you and what's going on. The clutch is seriously competition heavy. We're going to push it along to the left, but not too far to the left. We don't want to go into reverse by accident. That would be very, very, very bad. I've got to reach down here. Excuse me a moment to get the handbrake off. Don't forget, this isn't a case of somebody saying, oh, it's a bit like a race car and it's on the road. This is a race car on the road. Of course, there's one thing we've forgotten here. Now, I'd like you to tell me any way in which you can have more fun than with this. The noise, the feel, everything about this thing. This really is the real thing. It's absolutely gorgeous. Despite the size, it looks huge. As soon as you get in it, it shrinks around you. It really does shrink to fit, and that has got to be the sign of a seriously well-sorted car. You become instantly aware of where the wheels are. Instantly aware of where the centre of gravity is. Instantly aware of what's under my right foot. And you better not get carried away. The controls are an absolute delight. Rigid and tense and taut all the time, informing you what's going on. But unbelievably, they're not heavy. Which, when you consider the amount of power that they're controlling, that's quite an achievement.
Once, long ago, shortly after the final dinosaur had breathed its last, my parents took me to the cinema to see a film which completely changed my life and made me realise that for me, a life without cars would be utterly meaningless. The film featured a car which could fly, it could go on water, and it could rescue its charges from horrible villains. And the car was called Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Many years later, I drove Chitty and found to my immense disappointment that the car couldn't fly, couldn't go on water, and wasn't even street legal. It had a Ford V6 Zephyr engine, an automatic gearbox, and the whole thing was a Bitzer that had been made for the film. There was another car that featured in the film also, though, that is real and is street legal. And here it is, it's the 1909 Humber. It was driven in the film by Truly Scrumptious, you know, the blonde heroine that kept getting rescued every time she drove it in a stream. Well, today, because it's my birthday, its keepers at Bewley are allowing me to recapture the moment and take it for a spin, not a swim. The Humber has a two-cylinder engine rated at 8 rather underfed cart horsepower, which is mated to a particularly difficult gear change. No matter, once the hill has been conquered, you can forget the metallic torment that accompanies the most gear changes and just enjoy the wood, the leather, the gleaming brass and the passing scenery. One of the things peculiar to veteran cars such as this is that there are so many unique features on them, features that never survived beyond the First World War. On this particular car, there's things like the looking glass windscreen, there's the wicker basket for the old parasol, obviously a lady's car, and provision for a picnic basket. Now, with features such as this, you might have guessed this isn't a serious means of transport. This is a toy car for a wealthy Edwardian lady, and as such it was designed to be fun, relaxing and rewarding to drive. And the best part of it is, nearly an entire century on from when it was built, it's still fun. The car has been in this glorious part of Hampshire for over 40 years now. Lord Montague of Bewley bought it as a wedding present for his first wife, Belinda Lady Montagu from its original owner Lord Roots for £150. By now, it must be worth almost double that. It's always nice to see old cars running, and this Humber's no exception. Those who care for it daily in the museum, however, were particularly glad when I returned it after this jaunt without any evidence of testing its amphibious abilities. I'd even mastered the gear changing.
Vauxhall and General Motors have probably never had it so good because in the past 5 years their flagship Amiga has been consistently at the top of the executive car charts. In that time they've beaten off the likes of the Ford Scorpio and the Rover 800. They've literally beaten those two cars into submission. The quirky frog-eyed Scorpio we never really took to, and the Rover 800 after all was just a Rover. So Vauxhall have taken the decision to freshen the Amiga range up, give it a new lease of life for the next 3 to 4 years before their next generation executive saloons and estates arrive. It's a very welcome upgrade to a car that's such a familiar sight on our roads. In fact, since its introduction in 1994, some 600,000 Amigas have been built at the plant in Germany. Indeed, Britain and Germany are the main markets for the Amiga. 3 out of 4 buyers choose the saloon over the estate, and Vauxhall say that their designers and engineers have changed over a third of the car's 8,000 components. The most obvious are its exterior looks, with a new bonnet and boot, new front and rear lights, colour-keyed bumpers and sills, and new ranges of alloy wheels, plus a new 2.2-litre 4-cylinder engine that now makes, if my sums are right, 5 engines to choose from. The entry-level 2-litre 16-valve, the new-to-the-range 2.2, the 2.5 V6, the 2.5 turbo diesel, and the 3-litre V6, all available in manual or auto and in saloon or estate. Now, moving inside, again, it's an all-new interior. Vauxhall have tried to create, well, a touch of luxury, and I think they've pretty much succeeded. The dashboard has a soft-touch feel to it. There's a new centre console with heating and ventilation controls, and a brand new stereo system too. Now, Vauxhall, like most manufacturers, are incorporating a satellite navigation system into the car, and you can have the option of a 5-inch television monitor screen right there, giving you the sat-nav. There's plenty of space for passengers and some handy storage bins too. It has to be said that the Amiga was always a decent car to drive. Rear-wheel drive, a decent chassis and setup, and if you pick the 3-litre V6, well, a real stormer of an engine. 211 brake horsepower on tap and very respectable 0 to 60 times of just over 8 seconds, top speed of 150 miles an hour. The 3-litre V6, of course, continues into the new range in either Elite or MV6 form. This is the MV6, and this, in my opinion, is the pick of the bunch. It gets a lowered sport suspension by 15mm, stiffer ride, a touch anyway, and unique alloy wheels and an aluminium dashboard. The base 2-litre engines don't really offer much get up and go when pulling such a big car with only 136 brake horsepower. The 2.2-litre engine already seen in the Sintra produces 144 brake horsepower, and the 2.5 V6 gets 170. If you must have diesel, well, you can have the 2.5-litre inline 6 with 130 brake horsepower. But stand by, because next year a flagship Amiga will be available with an aluminium 300 brake horsepower V8 engine, the same as we've seen in the Corvette. Now, although Vauxhall make great play of competing with the main German manufacturers like Mercedes, BMW and Audi, in reality, the user-chooser company car driver who has perhaps £25,000 to £30,000 to spend on their next car, well, I'm afraid they're going to choose an E-Class or an A6 or a 5 Series over the Amiga, no matter how good this car is. The company car driver who doesn't have a choice, well, this is no bad car to have in their driveway, but perhaps the main rivals for the new Amiga are the Saab 9.5, the Volvo S80 or the new Rover 75. So the Amiga, not before time, has had a very welcome facelift, and that's really all that's happened with the car. The underpinnings remain the same as the outgoing Amiga model. It's very spacious, it's extremely well built. It's a car that can take on the might of Mercedes, BMW and Audi. It's just a shame it's got the wrong badge on it.
Hi, this has to be the ultimate Porsche gift at £34,232. An absolute snip, I think you'll agree, especially compared with the 911 at almost double the price. This is the latest Boxster, 2.7 litres as opposed to 2.5 litres, 220 brake horsepower instead of 204, and a few other minor alterations, improvements, updates. However, if you're a Porsche fan and can't run to anything like this, I happen to know somewhere where we can take you where there's some very interesting Porsche items for considerably less money. Let's go. Ah, Porsche's premier showroom in Park Lane. 911 Carrera, 68,950. Bit out of my league. I wonder what other interesting, more reasonable items I can find with a Porsche badge on it. Well, I've managed to assemble quite an interesting, unusual array of items which are very distinctive and, dare I say it, very Porsche. No other manufacturer seems to produce some of the things that we have on the table in front of us. Natalie Savage from Porsche Press Department. I've managed to press gang her to speak to us today. Natalie, could you run through some of these items with me, please?
Absolutely. Well, it's not just cars that you find in car showrooms anymore. There's a whole array of selection items that go with the range. There's some quite unusual things that we've got here today. For example, the condiment set here, which is actually really, really heavy. You'll see that it's got the little salt and pepper pots, which just slip nicely back into the little holders. An example of perfect engineering, you could say.
I certainly would agree. I mean, the weight of it would make a brilliant paperweight on the study desk, except you've got the salt and pepper.
Absolutely.
And what else? What's this unusual? Is this a cooking thermometer?
Well, no, you can see here it's actually a wine thermometer, but like the dials on the 911, you've got the dial on the wine thermometer here, which gives you a gauge of temperature. So you can just put it into your bottle of wine and it'll tell you exactly when your wine's ready to drink.
Well, Natalie, what on earth is this? It looks rather like a miniature pen.
Well, that's where you'd be wrong, Richard, because it's actually a wine stopper, so you could just put it in the top of your bottle of wine. And then also in the range is the wine pourer. So again, you just put it in the bottle of wine and you can pour it quite nicely.
And how much do those two items retail for approximately?
I think the wine pourer is £42 and the wine stopper is £39, so quite an unusual gift idea.
But would last a lifetime.
Absolutely.
Like the cars themselves.
Well, if you can't have the car, you can have the key ring.
Yes,
and they're only
certainly.
$7.99. I think that's probably within everybody's range.
And this lovely little model of current 911?
Well, it's not just kids that collect them, I'm afraid to say, adults do as well.
Ah. Would they be the sad variety? No, not
Absolutely
at all.
not.
No, they just can't quite run to the real thing.
There's a whole range of model cars, starting from the smallest ones right up to the larger scale models, and then you can take it one step further and get your own remote control car as well.
Now this GT3, they no longer make this.
That's
car,
right.
do
Well, the car was launched last year, and whilst we've sold out of all the cars that we have in the UK, you can certainly have the model variety.
And that would be about what, £30?
Somewhere around that.
Right. All right, Natalie, I see there's the ubiquitous American-style cap. Just makes me feel like a 20-year-old again, you know, watches a lot of music programs and likes to get out partying down to the clubs. What are these costing, Natalie?
They cost $12.99, I believe, Richard, and when you've got the roof down in your box, so what better way to keep your hair under control?
Well, if you've got any left, which in my case is rapidly going westward. What else we got? Natalie, am I right in thinking that this is a baby grow?
Well, I think a lot of the items that you'll find in the brochure make lovely gift ideas, and for real enthusiasts, why not have your baby in a baby Boxster suit?
And of course the adult version is the racing suit.
The racing suit.
And what do they retail at?
Well, the racing suit's actually made to measure for you, so you'd have to come in and find out.
And Natalie, what have you got to the left of you? Looks like an old granny's wheelie bag. I'm sure it's not. That's a very unfair thing to say.
This is the travel case. And whilst it may look a little ordinary on the outside, when you actually look in detail, and a lot of Porsche design is about detail, you'll notice that it's got 911 wheels, and it's got the handle on it is actually the same material as used in the seat belts.
Sorry, can we just... My goodness, you see everybody. It's flexible.
Absolutely.
I see, Natalie, that if you can't run to the cars, any of the cars, and you are Porsche mad, that you also do bicycles.
That's right, that's the Bike FS. I mean, like the cars, it's very much technology and design combined to produce a very good bike. It's
very rugged then.
Absolutely, it's got full suspension, lightweight aluminium frame, individually adjustable springs and locks. I mean, it's a real performance piece of technology. Porsche do a lot of prints as well. And this is one of only 996, as you're well aware that the type name for the 911 is the 996. So I think this is print number 246 of 996.
That is absolutely beautiful, isn't it? For you viewers who can't actually feel what I'm holding here, and my hands are nice and clean, I'll add, it's on a really good quality cartridge art paper. Probably handmade paper at that, and I think you'll agree if I hold it up to camera it really is quite stunning.
The sunglasses very much follow the Porsche philosophy of innovation, so you can actually take the lenses out, they're magnetically just slip in, so if the light intensity is very dark you can adjust them according to how light or dark it is.
Of all the Porsche items we've looked at this morning, I chose a key ring with a key on, which happened to belong to this very Boxster. The press office will have to fight me for the keys back. This is Richard Fines. Be seeing you.